Okay, it's about almost 6 o'clock. I'm almost scripting 4 out of 5 videos I need to finish up for most of the Women's History Month I have planned. And now you got me trying to debunk an April Fool's level hot take before I head to work. Fine. This tweet popped up while I was working on my Majade and Women in Toku video, so I might as well just add it to my gotch Kamen Rider and Railroad Woman analysis as part of some pseudo-trilogy when I'm done writing it, but holy crap, talk about bad takes. You said you weren't watching, Gav. Yeah, but I'm semi-aware of what's been going on. Fuga was revealed to be making the bitter Glaive clone, especially using his makeshift artificial child and later children to frame Shoma, kidnap Shoma to draw him out, and expose he was behind his mentor Soji's death. Sounds like it's good stuff. Plus, there might be a third option, third body later. But now this hot take showed up. Fuga murdered 8 people and created a massive clone army, and he's still more of a dad than Fuga will ever be. And this is how I know we have a serious media literacy problem. Didn't last week's episode have one of the Dark Shomas call Fuga dad, and Fuga had to correct him and call him master? I'm actually doing research. Y'all are the ones out here watching the show, so tell me if I'm out of line with this one, because I'm clearly not. Fuga's out here treating his children more like servants than the children were. Didn't even care if they died and can just create more. The man put as much care into their well-being as he did with the victims he could manipulate, including collaborating with Stomach Inc. to murder Hanto's mentor. But we're saying Fuga wasn't a good dad and was worse than Fuga? And now I remember people either binge Gotchard, barely paid attention, watched it intending to hate it from the jump, or over-exaggerating and twist half-truths to make the show seem worse than it actually is. Let's chronologically go over what happened based on the flashbacks in Renee's own world and memories alongside Guion's, since it clearly showed that he was a good father. He taught her about some of the alchemist legends, encouraged her to smile, and was her inspiration to become an alchemist in the first place. Heck, around the time it was revealed that Renee was the Thropo's origin, Glion even admits he used her as a model for his own daughter to replicate what Fuga had out of both envy and jealousy. So it'd be easier for him to manipulate a Thropos under the guise of a fatherhood that he picked up. Then, while Renee was still a child, Glion successfully managed to infiltrate alchemist society as a professor under the Order of the Dark Kings, so much so one fell in love with him, and none of them were prepared from his manipulation ahead of time. As a result, Glion managed to murder most of Minato's students and peers, then Spanner's parents, and activating the Black Flames Gigas passed down to him that he couldn't control, then brainwashed and manipulated the memories of the Alchemist Union higher-ups to make them think Fuga stole the chemis, instead of hiding them away from their safety and tricking people into believing Fuga was a traitor responsible. Then, as we saw when Hotaro went back to the past, Fuga had to face Glion and barely managed to win, harming Glion so much that the dude had to take years to recover, but now he's not only hunted down by Glion's homunculi for who knows how many years, he also has the entire Alchemist Union thinking he's a traitor, and compared to how Hotaro and Rene are with them having resources and other allies, he has no one in his corner that knows the truth besides the chemis. And since we later found out he had to use his own homunculi as body doubles to preserve his own body to let it heal, he clearly didn't have the mental fortitude to go around recruiting people trying to get them to change their mind. Plus, before the start of the series, the only people who could possibly know the truth or help him out is Spanner, Minato, and Kyoka. Minato still has his guilt over what happened and knows Gion will do the same to the kids that he's mentoring right now and wouldn't want that to happen. Kyoka is hurt from her injuries with Spanner, and meeting Gion that early while Spanner hasn't learned the truth about his Black Flames is calling for a recipe for disaster. Now, the argument becomes, why didn't he visit Rene during all of this? Again, he's on the run from his own allies who think he can't be trusted, and the villains who have been draining his mana reserves for years, while taking care of 100 different life forms he knows either group getting their hands on will spell disaster. And you expect him to bring his daughter with him throughout all of that? Think about that for a minute, guys. If he goes with her, that ends up with either the Dark Sisters using her as a human shield, cheap shot, or sacrifice, putting her in even more harm's way. And if she goes, she'll be branded as a traitor with him. Why would he want to put his own daughter through either of those types of misery? Besides, if she's living with the association, even if you can't trust them, at least she'd be able to grow up in a semi-safe environment compared to being on the run with him. And you can't even argue that him being alive was a retcon either. Athropos tells Rene he might be alive in episode 8, and he gives Rene the Alchemist driver in the Winter movie, so clearly he couldn't have been dead. Guys, a series explaining something that happened in the past and giving new information on it is not a retcon. It's adding to the lore, so clearly he just didn't abandon his daughter. While he wasn't quite aware of the relationship he had later with the organization, he gave Hotaro the driver because he had a genuine drive to protect the innocent lives, which led Hotaro to join Rene in the academy and understand her. Plus, even though he didn't quite know what their connection would end up becoming, if she was ever in danger, he ended up giving the driver to someone he knew would protect someone like her. There's also the fact that he directly gave Renee the alchemist driver after she pulled one hell of a gambit, trapping herself in a nightmare spell affecting the city. Given that we later see he has a friendship with X-Wizard, that either means he knew X-Wizard was capable of doing this, since Renee was in danger and also directly went inside the nightmare dream to protect his daughter, and given that he had to empower her ring to do so and handed her the alchemist driver, he either knew she was capable of being a Kamen Rider and planned to give it to her at the start even though he could have used it himself, or X-Wizard sent in there early just in case Renee was trapped there and wanted to help his daughter turn her nightmare into a dream ahead of time. Given that she saved everyone, he was clearly right in doing so, and he had her best interests at heart. There's also the fact he sent his homunculus to protect her, Spanner, and Hotsura when Minato's Type 1 evolution in Dread was putting them on the ropes. Then when Gaiard and Dragulas became Malgums and Trunks' daughter, the guy he entrusted with the driver, and Spanner, all at once, he had prepared his doll to transform and become Kamen Rider Wind to save them all. And even when the clone gets killed by Minato, Fuga tells them that he promises to meet them soon. And I'm going to say this in an upcoming video. Their reunion needed 2 more minutes and a longer conversation, but he was the one who gave her the hug properly and called her his beloved daughter. He also had the flashback of Fuga giving Renee new clothes when they were younger, with Gleon trying to emulate him, so he clearly had an impact on how Gleon tried to treat Athropos. And when Renee and Athropos were taken by Godzilla's plan, Fuga was willing to work with Gleon, the main cause of all of his suffering and separating him from his daughter, in order to save both of their daughters, and was clearly happy they made it out okay. But if we're all saying that he's generally a bad father and ignoring all of the circumstances that prevented him from being with his daughter, despite everything he could do to make sure his daughter was safe, are we really saying that he's a bad father despite all of that going on? You're not an absent father if you're actively involved in your child's life and doing what you can to make sure they're physically and emotionally safe, even if you can't do it directly face on. And you have to be willingly absent and not have circumstances that prevent you from actually being there you can't control. Like, I don't know, being the victim of attempted manslaughter for numerous years on end. But again, I don't have any hatred in my heart for anyone who thinks this way. I just fundamentally disagree based on what the evidence from the show provides. If you agree or disagree, let me know in the comments below and we can have a civil discussion about that. Alright, BIP, Bizarre Interest Production, signing off.